Hello again. So, in our continued talk on boundaries, we are talking about chronic dissatisfaction, which can show up as a boundary.
As a dear friend.
As a dear friend. So, let's talk about chronic dissatisfaction.
Why, pray tell? And why did you ask Sal if he wanted to join this conversation?
Because he's good at it. I know. We're all good at it.
We are. I'm an expert.
But yeah, you were talking about you drive by a beautiful house and we can find weaknesses.
God. So what's it? Well, so why is that? How do we know this? So in the false boundaries, when we think we have good boundaries, because we know what we like, we know what we don't like,
right?
And blah blah blah. I've realized that if it's chronic, that I am a chronic complainer, criticizer, all of that, and or shows up as chronic dissatisfaction in everything. I can complain about just about anything.
Yeah, you can.
I can. I'm so good at this. Look at all the things I'm good at. And I'm
good at it in subtle ways.
Yeah, you think you're more polite about it, but
right.
it still comes through.
Still comes through.
Sugarcoat it all you want.
It's bitter chocolate on that pill.
That's right. So how I've gotten better at that is recognizing, first of all, recognizing where it shows up. And one time, Sal and I have done like a dozen properties now over in our decades together, flipping houses, renovating homes that we lived in. And so we've gotten pretty good at making a quick assessment. If we're looking at a fixer-upper, we can walk through here and figure out what's wrong with it, what it would take, and what it needs. It becomes chronic and stealing joy from my life if I'm looking at the most beautiful house, and you're driving down that most magnificent historic neighborhood in an old town, and the right section of that 100-year-old homes and the tree-lined streets, and everything is beautiful.
Right.
And I could destroy the joy out of enjoying any one of them. And it's like, oh my God, it would be so perfect, but why did they pick those shingles? Oh, it's so perfect. I can't believe they painted the shutters that color.
Right.
It's like, why would you use those bushes for your shrubs, for your hedge along the street? There's always something that's not perfect. And I can spot it a mile away and instantly express it out loud.
Right.
And it takes away my capacity for enjoying what was so right about it. Now, maybe I found joy there's a certain amount of joy in knowing what I might do with something to add my touch to it or my improvement.
Put your signature on it.
But that wasn't it. I was unknowingly stealing my own joy, criticizing something rather than observing what my preference might be. It was making it wrong.
Right.
And it's like, well, that's not helpful or fun for me, even though it felt fun at the time. It really wasn't.
Right.
And it's not helpful at all. And who would want to play with me if I'm finding fault with everything?
Right. And it is, because there are people who are positive naturally. It is tough when they're around that, because they're like, what? It's like everything wrong,
Right. Yeah, and I realized, and so I had this long conversation with Brother Matt a number of years ago about the house, because we realized I'd seen it in conversations with him that he had picked up this same trait somewhere in our past. And when his son was growing up, I got to spend a lot of time with him, and I saw him doing it, and I said, oh my goodness, this is not good. We're passing this on to the next generation.
Which we do.
And we got it from the last generation. We should really turn that around and send it back where it came from. This is what we talk about, whether you want to call it generational trauma or just
pattern interruptus.
Yes, use the Latin term. Yeah, how about you? What's that like? How does that show up for you?
Well, just as you were talking, I was thinking about my dad, who I was very close with, and he was a kind, fun-loving guy, but he dropped those little negative bombs, and so I remember when I was living in California, and when the rains came, he'd be like, well, it's just growing more kindling for those fires when they come, and so there'd be a little negative attachment to something very positive, and I picked up that trait. And so it's like you just drop this little turd at the end, and people are like, what? Like,
why do you have to say that?
Right, why do you have to say that? And so that was something that I've really corrected. And there can still be a desire to say, and then I'm like, it's not going to do anybody any good.
Yeah, that's right. That makes complete sense. Yeah. So when it feels like there's a piece of it that's criticism, and then there's the other bit that's the the dissatisfaction. So one is inflicting our ickness on others,
Right.
other things and people and situations, and one is like just a making ourselves unhappy, like the constant dissatisfaction.
Right.
It just feels like a choice to not be happy when we could just, like, shut up and be happy already. Why we're pointing out things that focus on things that make us unhappy. It's like we're drawn to it. It's like almost a desire, a want.
Right.
And it's really, for me, it feels like maybe more just as a habit of, you're not supposed to be happy with it. It's like maybe there's a lack of deserving to be happy with it, or why you don't need more, or I don't need more. It's like the you don't need more would be kind of the messaging as I feel like I received it a lot. As a child, you don't need more. It's like, just be happy with what you have. Did not make me be happy with it. It actually made me less happy with it. Like, don't tell me to be happy with back to the defiance thing we covered in our last recording. You'll
get nothing and like it.
Now you're going to tell me what I'm going to like. Stop telling me what to do, and don't tell me what I like and don't like.
Right.
And so my pushback on that, my defiance of being told that I should be happy with something is making the case that why I shouldn't be or why I'm not. And I think that's turned into, it kind of grows into constant criticism and all of that. So, I feel like, how far are we on that path?
Still working on that, but
I have good days and bad days.
Yeah.
I can very easily step into my critical self. I'm more aware of it when I'm doing it. I'm like I'm able to witness myself in real time doing it. But sometimes I can step in the brakes and say, okay, enough. Enough of that.
Enough.
Finding gratitude, I think, is the cure for most of the cure for this, is finding gratitude for where we really are. And not being shut up and be thankful for what you've got, you ungrateful little snot.
Right.
Said no one I ever knew. But actually being grateful, being in gratitude as a practice, it preempts it. So it's not a scolding of you should be grateful for what you've got. It's a being always, or as often as possible, proactively being in the energy of gratitude, I think preempts this way. Like if we practice gratitude, journaling in the morning, for instance, that your day is set up for less of that criticism throughout the day.
Right.
So I'm grateful for you.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for you keep coming up here and spending this time to do this in person.
I'm grateful for Luke.
Grateful for Luke. Hi, Luke.
Came and sat on my lap, so.
Woof.
Woof, woof.
He's always grateful.
He is.
He's grateful for any lap, any
attention.
As long as it's 24 hours a day, he's grateful for his attention. Anything else?
Right. No, I think that's good. Thank you.
Perfect. See y'all later.